students of the Lyceum Maximum from the center of Ukraine, and we are fond of learning history and discovering new things. We visited Nenelboki Archaeological Museum in Kropivnitsky and learned about Ukraine's ancient past. We are interested in Trypillia Archaeological Culture and wanted to learn more about it. So we traveled 150 kilometers from Kropivnitsky to the village of Lahedzina in Cherkasy region.
Here we are, happy and excited to learn more. We are at the State Historical and Cultural Reserve Trypillia Culture. What have we learned about Trypillia culture? Trypillia culture is one of the oldest farmer cultures in the world, although it wasn't the first to exist on the territory of modern Ukraine. Trypillians are not an indigenous population. They probably came to us about 7,000 years ago from the Balkans and they are from Asia Minor. Trypillia culture emerged at the time when the Egyptian pyramids hadn't yet appeared. The Great Wall of China and Stonehenge hadn't yet been built.
Trypillia culture existed between the 6th and 3rd millenniums before Christ. It located between the Carpathians and the Dnipro River in the territories of modern Ukraine, Moldova and Romania, covering a total area of over 350,000 square kilometers. At the height of the culture, some settlements were home to 10–15,000 people. According to various estimates, the population of the entire Trypillia culture area ranged from 400,000 to 2 million people. Scientists from all over the world come to Ukraine to study this mysterious and enigmatic culture.
Who discovered and named this culture? In 1876, Adam Kirkor discovered a new culture in the Verteba cave in Ternopil region. He called it culture of painted ceramics. In 1884, Theodore Burada discovered a new culture in the village Cucuteni, Romania, and called it culture of Cucuteni. In 1893–1894, Vicenti Hoica discovered a new culture in the village Trypillia in Kiev region and called it Trypillia culture.
In the 4th millennium before Christ, there were about 20 settlements of 50 hectares or more in the center of Ukraine alone, which is considered very large for the Copper Age. The settlements closest to us had the following sizes: Volodymyrivka 100 hectares, Neberivka 300 hectares, Talyanki 450 hectares. These settlements were 5–9 times larger than settlements in the Balkans, the Middle East or Asia Minor at that time.
One of the largest cities of the Two Rivers region, Uruk, was 100 hectares in the middle of the 1st millennium before Christ. Trypillian settlements were quite large. Recent research suggests that some of the largest settlements contained up to 3,000 structures and possibly 20,000 to 46,000 inhabitants.
Settlements were built mostly near rivers in a circular pattern. As the population grew, the Trypillians increased the number of ruins of dwellings, building them concentrically, following a predefined pattern. Trypillians lived in adobe 1- and 2-story buildings with clay floors, plastered and painted walls, mostly in red. The ground floor was usually used for stoves, storage of equipment and grain grinding, and the upper floor was used for living. The roof was gable, covered with straw and probably covered with clay from below.
The dwellings of the Trypillian community attracted attention not only for the perfection of their architectural forms, but also for the bright decor of both the exterior and interior. Models of dwellings of the developed period give us an opportunity to plunge into the interior of a Trypillian house with a grain grinder, a row of pots, a 4-petaled altar, and a stove under the wall.
The most noticeable aspect of Trypillia culture was the periodic destruction of settlements, when each individual residence had approximately 60–80 years of life. Some of the settlements were reconstructed several times, on top of previous residential levels, preserving the shape and orientation of the old buildings. The purpose of the burning of these settlements is a subject of debate among scholars. Some believe that these were ritual burnings of houses.
In 2018, a team of Ukrainian and British archaeologists burned down not one, but 2 specially built structures. The researchers were amazed by the amount of fuel the Trypillians used to reach the maximum temperatures recorded in the sediments. Specifically, for each one-story house, they would have needed more than 130 trees of firewood, and for two-story houses, 250 trees. In this way, a settlement of 100 houses would have required an impressive 3.8 square miles of forest.
The hallmark of Trypillian culture is ceramics. Trypillian potters were well aware of the properties of clay and could mold pottery by hand, which impresses with its perfect shapes and ornamentation. Vessels were decorated with recessed decor in the form of ribbons of grooves or painted with mineral paints in black, red and white. Most often ceramics were decorated with spiral shapes, arcs, semi-oval shapes, circles, triangles, vertical and oblique lines, which were combined in various stylistic compositions. Sometimes there are images of the sun, moon, people, animals and plants on the vessels.
Historians, archaeologists, and other researchers have long been interested in the mystery of so-called binocular vessels. These binoculars have no analogues in any archaeological culture. Due to the complete helplessness and inability to explain the purpose of these vessels, scientists consider them to be religious objects. They believe that the binoculars were used for the ritual of causing rain.
We wanted to try to learn how to make pottery as the Trypillians did, so we signed up for a masterclass with a master who has been studying Trypillian pottery for 20 years. We learned that Trypillians used clay to build houses right in their settlements. They dug pits ranging in size from 15 to 40 meters long and up to 8 to 20 meters wide. At the final stage of their existence, the pits turned into garbage dumps. Now archaeologists find valuable items in these pits, which allow them to study and research this culture. The potters used two-tied pottery kilns to fire ceramics.
About 6,000 years ago, Trypillians used the same sophisticated kilns as the potters from ancient Crete 3,100 years ago, or from Greece 2,500 years ago. Since 2013, dozens of pottery kilns have been found in Trypillia settlements, where the famous ceramics were fired, which shows that its production was put on a stream. In this way, they were 3,000 years ahead of the ancient Greeks.
Trypillians had developed agriculture and animal husbandry. Fields were cultivated with reels and hoes, made of horn, stone and wood. Sickles with flint attachment were used for harvesting, and grain was ground on stone grain grinders. Wheat, barley, millet and legumes were grown. Grain and flour were stored in special large vessels called granaries, and in pits covered with clay.
Animal husbandry was dominated by cattle, which were used both as a supplier of meat and dairy products and as a pulling force for tilling the land and transporting goods on wooden carts. These oxen, which are presented in the exhibition of the Trypillia Culture Reserve, are the oldest image of a pair of harnesses in the history of Europe. Such an artifact may indicate a great advancement of Trypillians in agriculture.
Trypillian also raised pigs, sheep, goats and possibly horses. Along with the main branches of the economy, hunting, fishing and gathering of plants and fruits were developed. They cultivated some fruit plants such as plum, cherry plum, apricot and grapes. Collecting honey and wax from wild bees was quite common. A fish hook made of the oldest metal, 6.5 thousand years old, is on display in the museum. The hook is still sharp and can catch fish weighing up to 5 kilograms.
Participants of the Young Archaeologist Club, which is on the basis of the Zavalev Coliseum in Kirograd region, found a fishing hook on the territory of the Trypillian settlement of Kamyanets-Zavalya.
As farmers, Trypillians believed in the gods of thunder, sun, wind and rain, which explain the different seasons and weather conditions. They had their own protective spirits. The fire and bull cowl as the symbols of the sun and masculine power were widespread.
Researchers suggest that the goddess of fertility was also worshipped. The proof is the small female ceramic figures with voluminous bellies, hips and small breasts. The goddess Venus is a 15-16 cm high clay figurine with a clearly defined belly, symbolizing pregnancy. There are numerous holes on the body of the goddess. The Trypillians probably threaded the ropes through these holes for certain rituals. It is also decorated with patterns using angoba, a liquid clay-based paint.
The statuette of Trypillian Venus depicts a pregnant woman, but its special feature is to make a sound. If you lightly shake the statuette, it starts to rain. There is a version that the 9 balls inside the goddess symbolize the 9 months when a woman carries a child.
The museum keeps the only Trypillia plain board, a unique object of a sacred world of a Neolithic period of our motherland. Imagine a ceramic game board, something like a prenard or prelotto where you had to use a special stick. The Egyptian one was made of ivory. Such objects could also be used for divination.
Also, some Trypillian settlements had their own temples. They performed their rituals and ceremonies there. The 2-story temple in Nebelivka was 20 by 60 meters. It was a majestic public building. The main entrance was 1.7 meters wide. There was an open area around it, which could accommodate several thousand villagers.
The remains of 7 altars were found in the temple. We visited the Kirovograd Regional Local History Museum to discover the altar. Sacrifice was an integral part of Trypillian religious practice. They believed in the power of nature and performed rituals aimed at improving the harvest and ensuring favorable living conditions. Sacrifices included a variety of items such as food, drink, animals, and other values.
The Trypillians were not only masters of ceramics and farmers, but also had a talent for decorating their clothes and shoes. They used a variety of materials such as copper, stone, amber, and glass.
Copper played an important role in their culture, and with its help, Trypillians created incredibly elegant bracelets. Other jewelry was made of stone, giving it special color and shine. However, amulets were another important component of Trypillian jewelry.
This magical jewelry looked beautiful and also gave their owner protection from evil and unfortunate events. They symbolized a connection with nature and the spirits of the world, and it was believed that they helped people in their everyday lives.
Trypillians invented the loom. They dressed in wonderful homespun clothes. The clothes were beautiful and varied. Women wore fitted dresses of different lengths, skirts and shirts. All of them were decorated with embroidery. They had several types of leather shoes. In general, the Trypillians were very richly dressed, and the appearance of their women resembled that of today's Ukrainians or Belarusians dressed in national costumes.
Why did the Trypillians, whose culture was the most developed in the world at the time, disappear? We don't know. Starting around 3200 before Christ, the Earth's climate began to become significantly drier and cooler. This led to the worst and longest drought in Europe since the end of the last ice age. Environmental degradation also began to build up as a result of millennia of farming and deforestation, which turned a land of fertile soil into a desert. Trypillia culture relied entirely on subsistence farming to feed the huge population in its vast settlements, so scholars suggest that the main reason for the disappearance of Trypillia culture is an environmental factor.
130 years have passed since the discovery by Vikenty Hueka, but Trypillia culture still holds many secrets that we hope to unravel soon thanks to Ukrainian and international research and archaeological excavations.